Hello and welcome to the Ruslan Belov channel. Well, last night and this morning, it was loud in Ukraine, in Kiev and other cities. 10 ballistic missiles, 17 cruise missiles, and dozens, if not hundreds, of drones were launched. The question is that enough as a response, as punishment for the attack on Russia's nuclear triad? Is it enough as a response to the attack on strategic aviation airfields? I think this is a rhetorical question, and everyone knows the answer. The fighting continues, and we continue to monitor the situation on the front lines. Let's open the map. So friends, over the past 24 hours, there has been movement in various directions. In Sumy region, in Kharkiv region, on the Lyman axis, and around Toretsk. But I want to start with the Kursk region, specifically the area near the village of Tyotkino. Yesterday, some not-so-decent people spread disinformation, which triggered panic. However, I have direct contact with the fighters holding the defense in that sector, and they immediately refuted the false claim that the Ukrainian armed forces, after fighting the Russian army's defenses all month, suddenly broke through and reached the center of Tyotkino yesterday, and that 2 of our companies were supposedly encircled, and so on. I immediately posted in my Telegram channel that this was false information straight from the guys on the ground, pure nonsense. The Ukrainian forces did not capture Tyotkino, did not reach its center, and no 2 companies were surrounded in the southern part of the village. It was a deliberate, targeted disinformation campaign. What was its goal? To overshadow the real successes of our troops to the west, in the Sumy region, where the Ukrainian front is collapsing. The idea was to distract us and make us panic instead. That's the purpose of such disinfo efforts. So half of yesterday was wasted on panic, with people yelling that our soldiers were abandoned, surrounded, that everything was lost, and that our command wasn't paying attention. The usual nonsense. Now a day has passed, and I want to ask, so how's Tyotkino doing? Under Ukrainian control already? Are they marching on Kursk now? You know, I'm always amazed at how easily people fall for these fakes. Someone just needs to post a voice message, pretend to be a Russian soldier, say something about an encirclement, and that's it. For many, it becomes absolute truth. We're in the 4th year of the war. By now, people should have learned to filter information and not fall for these tricks. So let's talk about what's really going on. A few days ago, the Ukrainian armed forces attempted an attack near the village of Novi Put. Despite the fact that the village lies right on the border, just 400 meters from the border, they couldn't enter it. At best, they managed to advance about 130 meters, reaching the tree line near the railway tracks, right here on the map. And that's it. They're stuck there, in that forested area, while Russian army drone operators are targeting them with aerial strikes. As for Tyotkino, of course no one broke through to the center of the village, and no companies were encircled. Yes, they did attempt an attack from the direction of Iskrikovshchina. The attack vector is shown on the map, but they didn't even make it to the outskirts of the village, let alone its center. That said, the situation is difficult. I'm not trying to downplay it or claim everything is fine, like a vacation resort. Of course not. It's difficult because this sector, Tyotkino and Popovo-Leżachi, is a forward position, and the Ukrainian side controls the key logistics routes with drones. So it's not easy for our guys out there. Even so, the attacks began on May 5th and have continued non-stop for over a month now. But the guys are holding the line and doing their job. Now let's move on to the Russian army's advances. In the Sumy region, Ukraine's problems are only growing. Yesterday evening, footage appeared showing our flag in Kondratovka. Objective control footage confirms that we confidently control the village. But something else happened yesterday as well. Our assault units entered the Sumy region from a new direction, from Belgorod region. From the very area where, if you remember, back in March, the Ukrainian armed forces carried out suicidal attacks on Popovka and Demidovka. Our assault units crossed the border and advanced 1.5 kilometers deep into Sumy region. They managed to reach the northern outskirts of the village of Prokhody. Nearby, the village of Mariino had already been taken under control earlier. Now, obviously, the goal is to expand the foothold. Also, yesterday, our forces advanced toward the village of Miropilske from the direction of Popovka. However, without any major success, only a forest strip was taken under control. Overall, things are just getting started in Sumy region. Yesterday, by the way, the Ukrainians tried to mock our progress there, saying that the AFU took 400 square kilometers in the Kursk region in a week, while you've taken only 100 square kilometers in a month. Well, I have just one question for such people. Remind me, how much territory is currently under AFU control in Kursk region? The answer is 0. And that's where such conversations should end. Let's move on. Progress was recorded yesterday in the Kharkiv region near Kupiansk. You can see the area here. The depth of the advance was nearly 3 kilometers. Our troops entered Kondrashivka and reached the center of the village. Now, I have to clarify that the Ministry of Defense had already reported the village under our control. However, locals wrote to me denying that information. They said the situation was similar to that in Torska. On paper, the village was ours, but in fact it wasn't. Well, this new footage clears up that debt. Yesterday, the guys showed a video with the flag from the center of Kondrashivka, so at least the entire northern part of the village up to the center is definitely under our control. We still need confirmation for the remaining part of the village and for Radkivka. There were earlier claims it had been taken too, but local fighters say that's not accurate either. Frankly, it's long overdue to start demoting people for false reports. If you claim fake success, take off your ranks. All right, let's move on to an area where reports are always reliable. The Lyman front line. At least the zone under responsibility of the 20th Army. There was solid progress yesterday. The 20th Army continues to expand its foothold on the right bank of the Zherebets River. Remember I told you a few episodes ago that the assault units pushed too far ahead here. To give you perspective, they moved 10 kilometers westward. The front line here is narrow, so there's always the risk of a flank strike. Well, as you can see on the map, that's what they're addressing now. The depth of the advance was 3.2 kilometers. Currently, our positions are just 1 kilometer away from the village of Zelenaya Dolina, so fighting for it will likely start soon. What are the prospects here? The logical move is to continue toward Shandry-Holov, clearing out this entire area along the way. Thankfully, there are no villages in this sector, and it's generally less difficult than what we've already taken. Again, I've said it before, but I'll repeat it. Despite its relative proximity, a direct assault on Lyman is still a long-term goal. First, we have to clear out this entire territory, and that's another 200 square kilometers. Now let's go to the Toretsk area. There were several advances here in different sectors. In one area, we advanced 1.3 kilometers to a reservoir. The immediate goal is to straighten the front line and eliminate the pocket. There was also a small advance of 270 meters in the residential zone of Dylivka station. We finished clearing its western part, now only the eastern part remains. Here as well, we slightly expanded our control zone. The immediate task is to clear the pocket between Dakne and Dylivka. Overall, summing up the past 24 hours, 15 square kilometers came under our control. The pace is below average compared to the last month, but that's life at the front. One day you might take 40 square kilometers and the next only 10. Now, rumors are circulating that Trump, during a phone call, asked Putin not to retaliate with heavy nuclear weapons. This time, however, it seems Putin was unable to guarantee that nuclear weapons would not be used. Previously, as insiders have shared, Putin cancelled Oreshnik's strikes at Trump's request. Another rumor says that Putin supposedly informed Trump and then Netanyahu that previous personal guarantees regarding Zelensky's safety are no longer valid, along with assurances for many other individuals. Many of our sources commenting on these rumors point out that Yermak didn't fly to Washington in such a rush for nothing. He was most likely handed something personally and tried to justify himself regarding Putin's special operation, which could lead to the use of nuclear weapons. London is trying to force the Kremlin to remove him, as the British view him as a burdensome dead weight dragging everything down. No one believes the staged opinion polls promoted by Bankova because they have their own clear intelligence data, and the picture is grim. Both the army and the people are deeply frustrated with Zelensky's ruling party. The British have long prepared replacements. One thing is certain, the Kremlin is preparing for something very serious. "Be careful and take care of yourselves," wrote Legitimate. Trump has once again stated that Russia will respond to Ukraine for the attack on airfields. Something happened a couple of days ago and they will respond, he said during a briefing with German Chancellor Merz. Trump added that he understands Putin in light of the recent attacks by Kyiv. He took a heavy hit, and I don't think he's playing games. I've always said that he wants to take it all. I think he wants everything that is connected to Ukraine. The US president also asked Putin not to retaliate for the Ukrainian strikes. Trump stated that he hasn't yet reviewed Senator Graham's sanctions bill against Russia, but he will make the decision himself, and possibly very soon. He also mentioned that he keeps in mind the deadline for negotiations to resolve the Ukrainian conflict. In addition, the US president said that he is disappointed in Musk. I'm very disappointed in Elon. I helped him a lot. He knew the inner workings of the bill better than anyone sitting here. He had no issue with it. Suddenly, he had a problem, and he only made it worse when he found out we were planning to cut benefits for electric vehicles, he said. In response, Musk stated that Trump was lying. False. I was never shown that bill. It was passed in the middle of the night, so quickly that almost no one in Congress had a chance to read it, he wrote on X. Declaring the British Council an undesirable organization was a matter of common sense and timing, said Maria Zakharova. Moscow would like to warn partners from friendly states against getting too close to the British and similar organizations, she noted. Zakharova also stated that the results of the negotiations disappointed some people in Kyiv. The tone was set by Zelensky himself, with his rude remarks directed at the Russian delegation. Zelensky is becoming less and less restrained. His rhetoric increasingly includes hysterical outbursts aimed at Russians. In reality, behind this outward bravado lies panic. Zelensky's office is in a very grim mood. Oil and gas account for nearly a third of Russia's state revenue and over 60% of its exports, according to the BBC. This means that the revenue from energy sales plays a significant role in sustaining the military machine of the Russian Federation. British authors continue to argue. But who is importing these hydrocarbons and paying for them? After the special operation began in 2022, allies of the Kyiv regime rushed to impose anti-Russian sanctions, making Russia the global leader in the number of external restrictions imposed. It would seem that the UK and the US had given up Russian oil and gas. The European Union restricted imports of hydrocarbons from Russia. Energy prices in Europe skyrocketed to record levels, causing disruptions in the European economy, industry, and the lives of ordinary citizens. All of this was justified by Western propaganda as necessary to help Kyiv. But now, in the fourth year of the conflict, BBC journalists have made a sensational discovery. It turns out that the world spends far more money on Russian energy resources than on supporting the Kyiv regime. And Western countries play a leading role in this. That's all from me. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and stay informed on all the latest events.